riders up to do the canyons, when they say, well, you know the canyons, Aaron? And I said, yes. And they go, well, will you take us up there and show them to us? Because we've decided we can make time in the canyon. I said, well, I don't think anybody can make time in the canyon because of the nature of what it is, and take them through those from Michigan Bluff to Last Chance and back. And 9 hours later, they have a different interpretation and a different level of respect towards the difficulty of that trail, and they'll know then that you can't make time there. You have to make time everywhere else to accommodate that section.
Do a lot of homework. You gotta, really train and condition your horse and get it ready. And the terrain that I've been on today, I'll tell you one thing, it's nothing that I could have ever imagined in my whole life. It's just a whole lot harder than I could have ever dreamed of. And I've got some rough trails to train on, but nothing like this, but spectacular. And anybody that has a desire to do something like this, I think that they should.
When I say the word Tevis, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Horses, even before people. No, I'm a horse lover.
You are?
Yeah.
So you grew up on a ranch in Salinas, correct?
About an 80-acre piece of property. Mm-hmm. We had a farm and a ranch together, kind of combined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have horses and cows?
We had cows to milk, and we had some beef animals, and then we had a few horses. And I learned how to ride bareback at a very young age, maybe 3 or 4 years old.
3 or 4 years old. Okay. So, with our interview, we're talking about Tevis, but you and your reputation around the world is more than just the Tevis Cup. But one of the things that you have a claim to fame of is one of the first people that ever ran the Western States 100-mile run, back when it was still Tevis and runners participated in it. What year was that?
Okay, as a lot of people know, Gordy Ainslie, or now Dr. Harry Gordy Ainslie, was the first person, 1974, ran with the horses. And then a guy named Ron Kelly was the second person to try the run with the horses. For whatever reason, he dropped out about 2 miles or from around No Hands Bridge. Whatever reason, we haven't found out yet. Maybe somebody will get the history soon. And then 1976, being around the Tevis some and knowing Gordy Ainslie through riding ties, I said, I know I'm just as good a runner as Gordy, so I'm going to run it. And then I showed up at Squaw Valley, met Wendell Roby and Drew Sale Barner and whoever else, Dr. Barcelow, all those great people, and put out liquid with the horse people, and away I went early in the morning in Squaw Valley. But the thing was, I had a season pass at Squaw Valley, and so I knew only from the summit to the lodge. That's the only part of the trail I've ever been on, and that's not very much. It's only about 3 miles.
Right.
But to me, I do things because they're exciting. You don't know what's going to happen, and the adventure of it. And running alongside several hundred horses or whatever, to me, that's an adventure. And I enjoyed it the whole way. I didn't know Dr. Lynn. He was there keeping an eye on me in the shadows, and he became later one of my best friends. He wanted to be sure I didn't injure myself, and he was there when Gordy did it. I think Ron Kelly. But I'll let you ask questions here.
No, it's a great story
Yeah.
because you were running right alongside the horses. And how many other runners were there that year?
I was the only runner.
You were the only runner.
And I knew a lot of the riders, though. I felt very much at home. I've run with horses in the ride and tie
Okay, so
for
you've
years.
done ride and tie prior to that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so when throughout the run, Dr. Lynn was watching over you. And
I didn't
making
find out
sure-
till later.
What kind of shoes did you wear?
I don't remember.
remember?
I wore Nikes actually
Really?
a number of
Okay.
years.
So you knew a little bit about long distance running,
Marathon running.
Marathon running
Yeah,
prior
I was
to
a
that.
good marathon runner.
And so you had an idea of what you were getting yourself into, other than the fact that was it harder than you thought it was going to be?
Well, I ran pretty cautiously, and that's the way my life has been with all sports. I start slow, I feel comfortable, and I pick up the pace, and hoping to pass anybody that was in front of me. But since I was the only runner in 1976, I wasn't concerned about like it being a race or trying to beat anybody. It was like, let's experience this and get to know it, and then come back and do better, which I did.
Which you did.
But then my first year, 1976, it was a bicentennial of America. And Tahoe City, I streaked Tahoe City, July 4th, high noon. First time I ever wore the horns.
Right.
And then I saw the excitement and, fun it brought to other people. And I said, well, I guess I have some tradition starting here. And then I wore the horns every time I got a chance after that. But during the Tevis Cup I was running, 1976, I knew Gordy, but I didn't know he would be anywhere near at Forest Hill or whatever, but he joined me. I didn't ask him to join me,
And
but
he ran along with you.
He ran to the finish line with me. He gave me courage, confidence, we had fun, we kid, and two mountain men cruising next to each other, enjoying the moment. And, he gave me some advice, and he knew the trail though, he had ridden it, he had run it. So I was kind of at his mercy.
So in an earlier interview that I did, I interviewed Phil Gardner.
Yes.
And he was talking about the run in the early days, and he said that one of the reasons why it split off was because at the awards banquet, the riders kind of felt a little bit slighted because a lot of attention was brought on to the runners. Did you feel that way when you were participating in those early days?
Well, I always try to keep an open ear, open mind, have fun, whatever, and, not to become too politically incorrect or whatever. But I heard later, one of the reasons why they separated a run from the ride is some of the horse people felt like some of the runners were in their way, or it was, they weren't used to being around horses, but I've been around horses all my life, so I have horse consciousness. I could sense them behind me. If I hear sounds or if I hear noises, but you got to be, if you're running something on foot, you got to always be courteous and aware of the bigger animal and the riders, of course. But I just thought, one year we tried it, the runners with the riders, and I think it evolved at a soon enough time where there wasn't any animosity between runners and riders. And when they separated, the run from the ride, I thought it was good timing.
Yeah.
But being a pioneer or a first annual, whatever, run with the ride, I think it was perfect timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go backwards a little bit because I didn't realize that the ride and tie was prior to your running the 100-mile run. And so I remember you, because I grew up with ride and tie,
Right.
as just this mountain of a man, wearing his bullhorns, running. This character, and as a kid, it was just mesmerizing. It was like a character out of a comic book.
Right.
And so, how did you get involved in the ride and tie? And how did that come to you?
I'll try to give you a short version.
Okay.
Rather than a couple chapters or a book. I was living I moved from Salinas, which was Cowtown. Salinas, they had one of the biggest rodeos in the world. So I was around horses from an early age. Went to the rodeo and each July, and I didn't participate as a competitor, but I was around competitors. Like I went to high school with their bull riders and ropers and world-class athletes. But and so after a couple years in junior college in Salinas, I moved to San Jose, and then I. For whatever reason, I was living near a fellow named Ken Williams. He ended up winning the riding tie a couple times, but he was always out. He wasn't really the best horseman in the world, but he was a good runner. And so one day I saw him as a neighbor, and he was looking for a partner, a better partner than he had before, whatever, because you try to get the best partners you can to win the riding tie or place in the top 10 or whatever, same as, Yeah. So we went out running one time, and he says, "Oh, I think you're too slow. You're big and you're slow, and the horses are going to have a hard time carrying you, And I'm the type of person like, oh, I'm not good enough, huh? Okay, find somebody better." So I went out and found a partner, and we ended up beating this fellow Ken Williams. And he had a chance, but he passed, and so I found another good runner and a guy who rode okay, and his name was Bob Woodruff, I guess. But we came in the top 10 at Angels Camp, Sonora. That was one of my first ones, I think. Chuck Stolley was there, and his horse Peanuts, and history goes on.
Right.
But that's where I was introduced into riding tie. This guy said, "Can you ride?" I said, "Yeah." I brought up with horses. "Can you run?" "Yeah, I've done cross country and done a few marathons." But at the time, his judgment was, "You're not good enough," so I had to show him. And then, I didn't know what the future was going to be, like the Tevis coming, riding it 5 times starts, and then the Western States run being the second runner ever. I didn't know all this was going to be happening down the road.
So what year was your first actual Tevis ride?
I ran 1976 with the horses. And then I didn't ride for a while.
Right.
I was into running it. So actually it's in the book, the program, and right now the year I don't remember right this second, but.
Okay. Well, some people that have done both ride and run, they'll always have like a comparison of which is more difficult, which is harder. What is your opinion on that? Doing both ride and run?
Well, for me, as a runner and a rider, and I started riding at an early age, if I owned horses, and trained them for this Tevis or riding ties, then riding would be easier. But to get on a horse that you've only seen for a few weeks or a month or whatever, it's about riding as one.
And that's how you would catch ride. You would ride somebody, have somebody else condition the horse.
I wasn't living in a place like Hawaii or Lake Tahoe where it was easy to keep a horse. And expenses wise, on a trailer or a truck, all that. It was easier for me to either borrow, rent, not steal, but but to me, if I'm used to the horse and I get a chance to ride it and it gets to know me and I get to know it, then it would be easier than just running by yourself. But myself, I'm a runner. When I don't have a horse, that you have to be concerned about, running's easier.
Running's easier.
Yeah. You could stop when you want to. You don't have to worry about the horse. You stay hydrated. You have the nourishment you need. But the horse, you're thinking for 2 people.
Right. Well, you brought up nourishment. You have, in the very early days, you've always been very conscious of diet and the importance of food. So one of my questions is, in your lifetime, how many peanut butter sandwiches do you think you've eaten?
Probably thousands, but I've learned through the years. I don't eat peanut butter hardly anymore.
No?
No, it's almond butter.
It's almond butter, okay.
Or if there's something even better than almond butter, I'll eat it. It's one of my trips is, it's better to pay more, it's better to eat less, but have better quantity, or not quantity, but have better quality. Yeah, same as my friends. I'd rather have fewer friends, but quality friends, you know, than trying to be known by the world.
Right.
You know.
Well, you know, in the early days, I mean, we see the photos, which I'm hoping that we post with our interview. I mean, you know, and you still, you know, have the long hair. You kind of have this, you know, I mean, would you consider yourself a hippie?
A lot of people either thought I was a hippie when the hippie craze was here in the 70s, whatever. And because I have long hair, it has nothing to do with being a hippie.
Okay.
It's like, you know, I grew up in sports in a Cowtown area, Salinas,
Right.
and in all of our sports, everybody had short hair.
Yeah.
You know, crew cut. And then I went in the Army, National Guard for 6 years. We had in basic training, had to have a crew cut.
Oh yeah.
And then when I left, after I got out of the National Guard or whatever, though, I mean, still in the Salinas area first, then I moved my guard up to San Jose. But, you know, all the sports in junior college, whatever, it was crew cut. You know, just easy to shower, get, you know, whatever, sweat, whatever. But as soon as I got out of the National Guard Army after a 6-year obligation, I said, after, you know, 3 years, college, whatever, but I want to become a ski bum or a skier, full-time skier. So no obligation, went to Lake Tahoe, North Shore, got a ski pass. But from that point on, I became, from cowboy, nicknamed cowboy to cowman because of mountain man.
Right.
And I let my hair grow, beard grow, and just free-spirited. I didn't have to worry about shaving every morning. You know, and nothing against, you know, people who had crew cut or, you know, just whatever length, that wasn't with me important. But during that, like you said, was I ever considered a hippie? I had long hair and I knew hippie people, but I was raised in such a way where you take people just on their true value, you know, I mean, of their personality and, you know.
On their own merit.
But it was always nonviolence. As long as they practiced nonviolence, they could be my friend, you know.
Well, I think it's time, Cowman,
To become horny,
to get horny.
I've been there. No,
Would you be willing to put your horns on for this interview, for the rest of this interview?
Sure. One little thing is, lead up to the horns,
Okay.
is I was in Tahoe City for a while, and Bicentennial was coming about, and there was a lot of advertising, people trying to make money because of the 200-year celebration of our country. And I tried to, creatively as an artist, you know, I was an art major in college and all that, I tried to come up with something that I could do for the 4th of July, the birthday of 200-year celebration, the birthday of America. So then a friend of mine had these horns in his shop in Truckee, and I said, can I borrow them? So I borrowed them, and they were such a hit that I'm still wearing them. So anyhow, without further whatever ado, or I'll share
You
my
can don
horns with the world.
the horns. There he is. That's the cowman I grew up idolizing, right there.
And one thing that's really important, I think, for everybody to know, all ages, sex, people around the world, I've worn the horns in Lake Tahoe starting out, and then Truckee, then, you know, took them to Hawaii with me. Then I started going to different countries, being invited as cowman, Japan, New Zealand, Brazil, Canada, and if I had somebody to promote me, I'd probably go every country in the world, but, you know, time and resources, it's important. But these horns represent the American Indian, the buffalo, and somebody to be able to carry them and have the spirit of love. And also, what I was getting at is I never had to use my horns on anybody, ever. And that's a pretty good track record, I would say.
I would say so, because you've been wearing them for quite a long
Since
time.
1976.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've felt like using them on, but I've been able to work it out in other more positive ways, you know.
Absolutely. And you've always been a spiritual person.
Yeah,
and,
thanks to my mom and my dad. They were, you know, really, you know, like I say, a Mother Teresa, if you want to compare my mother with somebody. But I'm just saying I had a great mother, and out of respect to them, how I live my life, you know, every day is thanks to them for having me as their child, or, you know, God's child or whatever.
So let's get it back to the Tevis for a moment. You finished the ride in 82 and 83.
Okay.
And do you remember the horses you rode on those rides? Do you remember anything about them?
Yeah. One of the horses I rode in the ride and tie, and the lady who supplied the horse for me, she let me use the horse for Tevis, and she crewed for me, so I got through okay. And then I think there was another person, I think it was a different person, had this Arab horse that only had one eye, blind in one eye. I could probably always go back and find out what horse that was or whatever. But anyhow, I remember the horse going up to a Devil's Thumb and so forth, some of the narrow single track trail that the horse was feeling its way.
Oh, boy.
With one foot kind of hanging over the side, but it was okay because I knew he had 3 other legs. So. And then, you know, you got to become one with the horse you're riding, so you can't, you know, you let it rip.
One of the things I think about, you said you've been all over, you know, around the world, or, you know, in different countries, and you know, you share your experiences, and part of that is sharing your experience with the Western States Trail. I mean,
Right.
obviously, you know, completing the Western States 100-mile run is you know, something that people would be very interested in knowing about you. And so, in that respect, you know, have been a good spokesperson for our trail and what our trail represents.
Right. No, I'm sure people, if they realize that people like Wendell Roby, who came before other riders, and numerous other people, you know, who've ridden after the first group that did the Western States Trail, is because of the beauty and the history and all the other facts involved. Like me, if I'm not riding, I want to be there.
And we see you there just about every year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I skied Squaw Valley for a lot of years, maybe 20-something years, whatever, but I know landmarks, trees, some of them are dead or dying, or doesn't matter. It's just the beauty of each sunrise, especially atop of Immigrant or where Watson Monument is. If I'm not riding, I want to be there, and I want to photo the beauty of the horses and the riders and the sunrise. But that's only one spot. I mean, like the day before, Wendell Roby Horse Park, I mean, that's a beautiful area. And just the energy from all the riders and the horses, and just, you know, so much happening there. I talked to a lady who owns a newspaper in Truckee, and that's only a couple miles away. She didn't even know there was a Tevis. So I'm saying, if we don't put the word out or share the love in our experiences and, you know, what we're experiencing and why we love it so much, they might not ever know. But thank goodness to the, you know, new age or computer or whatever, photo, that maybe someday the whole world will get to experience it either on a DVD or a movie or whatever, or in person, whatever. I know riders have come from Arabia, and some of these oil sheiks and stuff have took interest. They were even sponsors for a while. And I'm saying, when I saw that happen, I said, wow, from the source of the horse. You know, the Arabian horse who do best, they're sending riders over, and to me, that's really exciting. And then, you know, like this year, 2017, even though they had a lot of snow on the Sierras and all that, and they had to change their race start, there's a lady from Minden that I got to, you know, team up with, and she was crewing for three women from Argentina. And to know that they're coming from Japan, they want to film it in Argentina and all around the world, man, I mean, that's really exciting. It
is exciting. You know, I like to ask people that I interview that have been doing it as long as you have, what what are the biggest changes you've seen over the years in the horse? Because you come to the Tevis, just you try to come every year. What's the biggest changes you see that are happening in that ride, as far as horses, people, whatever whatever your thoughts are?
That's a pretty big question. I mean, it's loaded.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No. What I'm
share.
saying is, I've seen a lot of changes. Everybody has, or maybe somebody that's only come once or twice or whatever hadn't seen as many changes. A lady, for example, this lady Tara Reed, she's seen the race from inside and outside. People who were on the board, or people I mean, there's just some people let it go, and some people stay with it to the end. And I mean, like when you see all the modern equipment coming along with these riders and stuff, and how the horses are trained, and the vets are more aware. And I mean, I'm just saying, it's still more, as much care as possible for the horse. I mean, because the horse is still number one, as far as I'm concerned. No horse, no rider. You have a horse and you have a rider, and you got a team. And I'm still, I just say, this year's race where they checked in the horses and all that, right near a railroad track, and the big trains coming through and honking their horns. And to me, there's a lot of excitement there. I mean, it's this Windmill Roby Horse Park's kind of isolated in a quiet area, and so them have to have another starting area because of the heavy snows they had, this year. It's exciting wherever it's held, but I say people are willing to start anywhere. I mean, whatever it takes to put on the race, it's important enough to make it work.
And they make it happen.
Yeah, they make it happen. Every person, from dog to kid, child to volunteers and to retired people, whatever. I go to the finish line, as often as I can, sitting in the bleachers, because I want to see a horse after they started from wherever, Soda Springs or Windmill Roby, horseback, and seeing him come across the finish line and say, man, this horse has got some good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I never get tired of it. Some people do. They say, oh, okay, I've seen it 3 years or 20 years or whatever, but I can never get enough. I mean, I live in Hawaii, and I see some horses there, and the kids' excitement of them learning how to ride, but a lot of them from the state of Hawaii don't even know there's a Tevis or a 100-mile horse race or whatever. And I'm trying to share, maybe I can get a copy of other film and share with horse people, and then let it spread from there. But each person has to do their part if they love the sport,
And they've talked about actually putting an endurance ride on in Hawaii.
Sure.
And maybe that'll happen someday.
They have had a ride and tie before.
Okay.
But, sponsors are important for any sport.
Right.
Because it's not cheap, to put on. You need responsible people. And like Chuck Stolley, he's been a friend of mine for years, and his whole family are horse people. And it just, I raced against him in riding ties, and to see him do what he's doing, the responsibility he has, it's breathtaking.
And that's a family that dedicates a big portion of their time to the ride and this sport.
Yeah,
and his daughters as well. They're great
They're
riders.
Accomplished riders.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's good to see. It's good to see it's generational.
Right.
So I do have to ask you a question about the horns, as far as the babes you must have gotten over the last 30 years. The babes. The women.
Oh, babes. Babes. When I'd walk in or go anywhere, actually, people are always curious more than anything. And, I like playing the role sometime. I mean, I used to be cow baby, and then I cowboy, and then, I earned my rights from Mountain Man to take the title of Cowman. And it was self-given. Like some people say, your mother wouldn't give you a name like that. And I said, well, you're totally right. My mother wouldn't give me a name like Cowman. But anyhow, I use Cowman because it works. I have a story to share how I got there. And where I'm totally going, around the next corner or the next whatever, time will tell. And that's what makes it interesting, because we don't know always what's around the next corner or the next bend. Or, you know, I'm going back to Hawaii Friday, and this race, Ironman Triathlon, it's a world championships. The best athletes in swim, bike, run are going to be there, and I'm going to be there because I feel I'm one of the best for my age and my size. And, you know, I don't want to be excluded, even though sometimes politic-wise they like to exclude people for whatever reasons. My presence is always really cherished by people around the world who have seen me previous or heard about me or whatever, and I'm there for them, not just myself. It never has been all about myself. It's been about, you know, locals, they call them wherever you're at, like used to be Truckee or the lake or whatever, or never lived in Auburn, but, you know, I've been to Auburn and I feel like this is part of my home too.
Well, people know you in the Ride and Tie circle back, you know, especially in the early days of the Levi Ride and Tie,
Right.
the Western States Run, the Tevis. You've always, you know, been there to support your friends and encourage people along the way. I've seen you up on at Squaw Peak taking photos as I've ridden by, and it's like it wouldn't be right if Cowman wasn't up there encouraging people. And that's something that I think we could all appreciate about you and what you've done for our sport.
I appreciate all the good words.
Yeah,
and,
well, it's
and
the
they're
truth.
truthful ones.
Yeah. So if you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Just to be sure everybody had plenty to eat and had shelter, and maybe had the chance to enjoy any of the thrills I've had during my lifetime.
If you had a sidekick, what would his name be?
How about Buddy?
Buddy? Not Calf Boy or nothing like that? No?
No, I maybe would even have to think about that one.
Okay.
But
Might
no,
have to work on that, because you may have to have a sidekick eventually one day, because every superhero has to have a sidekick.
Well, there's Cowman, and it could be, people say, well, Cal is female, but...
Well, that was what I was going to ask you, because it sounds like an oxymoron.
Bovine man?
It sounds like an oxymoron to me. Cowman.
It's what?
Cowman might be an oxymoron. Is it or not?
I can't answer that.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to say, in all my travels, not just with Tevis and in Western States Run, but people have always asked me, you know, where's your home? I see you around, you know, the world doing different sports. And sometimes you don't have time because you're on the go. And to say, well, yeah, I was born here, and then I moved there after so many years, and then I ended up in Tahoe, and then I went to Hawaii, and then, you know, just the kind of Cowman mentality is, like I said, well, how about planet Earth? Will that work? Where do you live? Planet Earth. We all breathe the same air. You know, we swim the same seas. So why not all of us humans, you know, like Ohana in Hawaii, they call it, Ohana is family.
Okay.
I mean, like we're Tevis family, Western States Runner family, and other family, whatever, but we're all humans. And to me, I like to think, man, this is my home, and wherever I go, like a cowboy on a horse, never knowing, as you say, where they're going to be tomorrow night or tomorrow day or whatever, and lay their hat.
You've lived your life that way.
Yeah, I have, ever since I left where I grew up.
Yeah.
My folks' El Rancho, I mean, as soon as I left the property, I said, well, I'm on my adventure now. I mean,
And quite an adventure it has been, huh?
it has been, and I've been enjoying. That's why I bring paper articles when I travel, or photographs, so I can share with people who have no clue. I mean, they might have little clue, but pretty much no clue. But I like to share with them. I'm really proud and happy to share with all of you, you know, the great folks of Auburn area.
What's your favorite spot on the Tevis Trail? Is there one place that you get to when you?
There's two.
Okay, that
Besides
you
the
get
finish
to and
line.
you just take
Besides the finish
a
line.
deep breath and just go, this is the most beautiful place in the world.
Besides the finish line.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. One of my favorite areas is Watson Monument area. Because when you get to there, you're pretty much top of the world. And the view you have. Some people ride right over top of that mountain because they're so anxious to get to Auburn. I saw one or three gals riding together, kind of further back in the pack of the Tavis ride this year. No, wait, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Because they didn't go over Watson this year. Too much snow.
Right.
Okay, 2 years ago. I was up there taking photos with my horns on. These three ladies went around Watson Monument about 2 or 3 times with their horses. And I was talking to them as we were doing it, and they're yippee, yay, and like 3 gals on a fun ride. And they would look at the lake, and they would look at the sun coming up 3 times, making the circles around, and then they headed down the hill, and they disappeared. But I do that all the time. You know, I'm looking at the sunrise, looking at the lake. I know how beautiful the lake is. Of course, from that point on, the lucky riders who are seeing it firsthand, a new day, a new view, a new experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the second place is Cougar Rock is pretty special. A lot of people don't really know what Cougar Rock, you know, what it stands for, or you know, but there's different artists that have been there because they use that as a focal point.
Yes.
A lot of passing riders or runners. A few horses have lost it there, and you know, it's sad, but it's a very difficult spot of the trail. You know, you can go around, I guess, Cougar Rock, or you can go over to the rock. But to me, just because of the notoriety and history of that point, besides, you know, top of Immigrant Watson Monument, what, you know, all the trailblazers before, you know, have done for all the Tavis riders today.
So
Yeah,
those are your 2 favorite spots, and they're great spots.
well, the
They're
river,
beautiful.
the swinging bridge.
Yeah, it's
You know, I mean,
nice.
it's a shame that it burned in the big fire, but the swinging bridge, also that river, when you look down and see the clarity of it, and the trees, it's like an arbor around you, and that's another spot. I mean, but there are hundreds of those spots. I mean, really.
Well, Ken, Cowman, thank you
Muha
so
Shirk.
much for doing this interview with us. It was a real honor to sit here with you and get to ask you questions and get to know you better. And,
I know what you're getting at.
Where am I?
I know what you're getting at. You want something I have on.
Yeah, I would like to do that.
How about
I've
if I
been
exchange seats with
admiring
you?
Okay, because I've been admiring those horns for a long time, I have to say.
You know, people in
So-
Hawaii, when they see me, if I don't have these horns on, they just put 2 fingers
See-
up by their head.
Oh, there you go. That's the symbol. That means
That's
yeah.
the horn, but
Yeah.
I'd like to take them off and
Yeah. Wow.
Is it okay?
See, you can take them off. I wasn't sure if you let anybody else wear these.
There you
but
go.
This would be a pretty special thing to be able to do. All right.
Cowman Jr.
There you go. Can I be your sidekick? Your superhero sidekick? They're heavy. All right.
Peace.
We did it.
Peace.
Peace.
Hang loose.